Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Here we bring you unforgettable stories inspired by real events and the echoes of the past. If you love tales of love, destiny, and history, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Now let me take you back 1,000 years ago into the heart of a small but proud kingdom. There, a forbidden love was born, a love that defied laws, traditions, and even time itself. The year was lost in the dust of time, 1,000 years before our present day. Between the harsh mountains of the east and the fertile valleys of the west, there lay a small kingdom, humble in size yet vast in honor. Its people were loyal to their land, devoted to their ruler, and bound tightly to tradition. The kingdom was called Serinya. At its heart stood a modest stone fortress. It was not grand compared to empires, yet its walls gave the people a sense of safety. Inside that fortress lived the royal family, and among them was a young woman whose story would change everything. Her name was Alara. Though she wore silken dresses and walked the marble halls of the castle, her heart longed for something far beyond luxury. People said her eyes were as deep as the skies at dawn. Yet behind those eyes she carried a secret dream, a life not bound by titles, but by true love. One warm morning, the capital was alive with unusual excitement. Caravans from distant lands had arrived, bringing spices, fabrics, and glittering stones. The market square overflowed with scents and colors. Amidst the crowd, Alara slipped away from her guards. She wore simple clothing so no one would recognize the princess. She wanted just for a while to walk as one of the people, and fate was waiting. Among the caravan workers was a young man named Arvin. He had no jewels, no titles, only a pair of steady hands and a heart shaped by hardship. He came from a poor village, and by working with the caravans, he earned his daily bread. But his eyes carried something rare, courage and kindness. When Alara and Arvin's eyes met across the market square, time seemed to freeze. The shouts of merchants, the clatter of hooves, the laughter of children, all faded into silence. For a heartbeat, there was only the two of them. Alara felt her chest tighten. She had seen nobles, princes, even warriors bow before her beauty, yet never had she felt this warmth. In Arvin's gaze, there was no hunger for her crown, only a light that reached straight to her soul. Arvin, too, was stunned. He had carried heavy loads, crossed deserts, faced storms, but never had he faced something so disarming. The gaze of a woman who seemed carved from the very essence of dawn. But the laws of Serinya were strict. A princess could never be seen with a commoner, let alone fall in love with one. It was not only forbidden, it was unthinkable. Yet the heart does not obey the laws of kingdoms. That night, as the moon bathed the castle walls in silver, Alara stood at her window. The air was cool, carrying with it the distant echo of the marketplace. She closed her eyes, and all she saw was the young man with the steady gaze. Her heart whispered a truth her mind dared not speak. She would see him again. And far beyond the city gates, under the same moon, Arvin lay awake on the ground beside the caravan fires. He had nothing but a rough blanket, yet his mind burned with a single memory, eyes like the sky, calling to him, pulling him into a destiny he could not yet imagine. Thus, in the heart of Serinya, a love story began, a story that should never have existed, but one that time itself would remember. The following morning, life in Serinya carried on as if nothing had changed. Farmers brought their harvest into the city, soldiers patrolled the gates, and children chased one another in the dust of the streets. Yet for Alara, the world was no longer the same. She rose early, dressed in a simple gown, and moved through the castle halls with a quiet longing in her heart. Her lady-in-waiting, a girl named Mira, noticed the faraway look in the princess's eyes. "My lady," she whispered while brushing Alara's long hair. "You seem distracted. Did something happen yesterday?" Alara hesitated. To speak the truth would be dangerous, yet silence felt unbearable. "I saw someone," she finally murmured. "A man, not of the court, not of noble blood. But his eyes." She stopped herself. Mira studied her carefully, but asked no more questions. Servants knew when secrets were better left untouched. Meanwhile, Arvin remained with the caravan outside the city walls. His companions laughed, sang, and counted their profits from the day's trade. But Arvin could not join their joy. His mind was consumed by the memory of the young woman in the market. He replayed the moment again and again, the sunlight in her hair, the calm power of her gaze. Who was she? A merchant's daughter? A noblewoman in disguise? Whoever she was, she did not belong to his world. And yet, he longed to see her again. Fate, however, is never without its tricks. 2 days later, the royal family held a festival to honor the season's harvest. The gates of the castle opened wide to let the people gather in the outer courtyard. Musicians played flutes and drums, jugglers tossed torches into the air, and the aroma of roasted meats filled the air. Merchants and caravan workers alike were welcomed, for festivals were meant to unite rich and poor, noble and commoner. Elara, seated beside her father the king, tried to hide her restlessness. She wore a golden veil, but her eyes scanned the crowd with urgency. And there, among the workers, carrying crates of goods for the feast, she saw him, Arvin. Her breath caught. He looked the same, yet different in the festival's light, his posture proud, his movements steady. He was not aware of her gaze, yet she felt as if an invisible thread tied them together. When Arvin finally lifted his head and caught sight of the princess upon the dais, his heart lurched. He understood instantly who she was. The silks, the crown of flowers, the nobles surrounding her. There was no doubt. The woman from the marketplace was none other than Princess Elara of Serinya. For a long moment he could not breathe. A princess. Impossible. The dream of a fool. And yet the memory of her eyes, soft and human beneath the royal veil, told him she was more than a crown. That night, as the festival fire crackled in the courtyard, Elara slipped away from the celebration. She walked down a quiet stone corridor that overlooked the city, and as if guided by the same force, Arvin wandered the outer halls, searching for a moment of silence away from the crowd. They met in the shadows. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The torches flickered, casting long shapes on the stone walls. Then Elara whispered, "You are here." Arvin bowed his head quickly. "Forgive me, my lady. I should not even look upon you." But Elara stepped closer. "Do not call me lady," she said softly. "When I am here, away from the court, I am simply Elara." Arvin's chest tightened. He wanted to run, to obey the laws that told him this path would only bring ruin. Yet something stronger than fear held him in place. "Elara," he said, letting the name fall gently from his lips. "I have no riches, no title. Only a heart that has already betrayed me, because it cannot forget you." Elara smiled, a smile that seemed to carry both sorrow and hope. "Then we are both traitors," she whispered, "for mine cannot forget you either." The night deepened around them, and for the first time, they spoke freely. They spoke of their childhoods, Elara's filled with lessons, duties, and the weight of expectation. Arvin's shaped by hunger, storms, and the long roads of the caravans. Their worlds were different, yet their hearts beat to the same rhythm. But even as the stars watched, danger crept closer. A pair of guards patrolling the corridor turned the corner. Elara gasped and quickly pulled her veil over her face. Arvin lowered his head, pretending to be nothing more than a servant. The guards passed by, suspicious but silent. When they were gone, Elara's hands trembled. "It is dangerous," she said. "If they had seen us—" Arvin shook his head. "Then we must be careful. If fate has placed us in each other's path, we cannot ignore it. But we must walk this road in secret." Elara looked into his eyes, and for the first time in her life, she felt free. "Yes," she whispered, "in secret, but not in silence." And so their hidden story began, in stolen moments and whispered words. Neither the king nor the nobles suspected what was blooming in the shadows of Serinya's fortress. But love, like fire, cannot be hidden forever. Days turned into weeks, and the hidden thread between Elara and Arvin only grew stronger. Each night, when the moon climbed above the fortress, Elara would steal away from her chambers and find a quiet corner of the gardens or the old stone corridors where the guards rarely passed. And there, Arvin would be waiting, sometimes with a small flower he had picked from the fields beyond the city walls, sometimes with nothing but his presence, which was enough for her. Their conversations wove together a world of their own. Elara told him of the burden of duty, of the endless lessons in diplomacy, history, and etiquette forced upon her. Arvin shared tales of deserts and mountains, of storms that destroyed caravans, of nights where hunger gnawed at his bones. Their lives had been shaped by opposite worlds, yet their hearts beat with the same restless longing: freedom. But secrets cannot stay hidden forever. One night, as Elara crept back to her chambers, she found her lady-in-waiting Mira, waiting by the door. Mira's face was pale, her eyes filled with fear. "My lady," she whispered, "I saw you with him." Elara froze. Her pulse thundered in her ears. "You must tell no one," she pleaded. "Mira, please, If the king learns of this, Mira lowered her gaze. I have served you since childhood. I will not betray you. But be warned, Ilara. Others may not be so loyal. You are playing with fire. Ilara nodded, but her heart refused to let go. Meanwhile, Arvin felt the weight of their secret pressing heavier with each passing day. He knew the punishment for daring to love a princess would not simply be exile, it would be death. Yet every time he thought of walking away, he saw Ilara's eyes and all fear crumbled. The kingdom itself, however, was shifting. To the north, a rival state had begun to send threats. Whispers of war spread through Serinia streets. The king, desperate to strengthen his alliances, summoned his council. It was decided that Ilara would be betrothed to Prince Kalen of the neighboring realm, a union that would secure peace and prosperity. Ilara learned of the arrangement during a feast in the Great Hall. The announcement was made publicly. By decree of King Darius of Serinia, Princess Ilara shall be given in marriage to Prince Kalen, to bind our kingdoms in eternal alliance. The hall erupted in applause, yet Ilara felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath her feet. Her fingers clenched around her goblet until her knuckles turned white. Across the hall, Prince Kalen smiled. Handsome, noble, yet utterly unfamiliar. He bowed to her, unaware that her heart already belonged to another. That night, Ilara ran to the gardens, tears blurring her vision. Arvin was there, waiting, his face lighting with relief when he saw her. But her expression silenced him. They have promised me to another, she choked out. A prince, a man I do not love. Arvin's jaw tightened, his hands curled into fists. Then I must leave. If they find us now, it will be worse than death. No! Ilara clutched his arm. I cannot bear it. Arvin, I would rather die than be given to him. You are the only truth I have ever known. Arvin's eyes burned with conflict. He wanted to protect her, but he also knew the power of kings. Ilara, if we fight this, the whole kingdom will turn against us. Do you understand? Your father would see me hang before the gates. Ilara's voice trembled, yet it was filled with fire. Then let them. Let them try to chain me, to sell me like a treaty. I will not give them my heart. It is already yours. Arvin pulled her into his arms, the weight of the world pressing down on him. For the first time, he kissed her, not in the open, not under the eyes of nobles, but hidden beneath the dark canopy of trees, where only the stars bore witness. But nearby, unseen in the shadows, a pair of eyes watched. One of the guards, suspicious of Ilara's nightly walks, had followed her. He saw the kiss, the embrace, the forbidden bond. And though he did not confront them that night, he carried the knowledge like a poisoned blade, waiting for the moment to strike. The next morning, the guard reported to the king's advisor, Lord Vaynar, a man known for his ruthless ambition. Vaynar listened, his lips curling into a thin smile. A princess in love with a commoner? The king must never hear of this. Not yet. This knowledge may prove useful. And so the trap began to form, even as Ilara and Arvin clung desperately to the fragile world they had created. For them, love was life itself. But for the kingdom of Serinia, their love was the seed of betrayal, scandal, and ruin. And fate, merciless as the passage of time, was about to test them both. The days after the harvest feast grew heavy with unease. In the castle halls, whispers of war echoed louder with each sunrise. Riders carried messages to distant allies. Blacksmiths forged new blades, and the air itself seemed charged with tension. Yet for Ilara, none of it mattered. Every beat of her heart belonged not to treaties or kingdoms, but to the stolen nights she shared with Arvin. They met in hidden corners, their voices low, their hands trembling with both fear and desire. Each meeting was more dangerous than the last, yet neither could resist. The deeper their love grew, the more fragile their safety became. And Lord Vaynar watched from the shadows. The advisor was patient, biding his time. He knew the king's wrath would be terrible once the truth came to light. But he also knew secrets were currency, and this one was worth a fortune. He waited until the right moment, when the kingdom's nerves were already stretched thin, to set his plan in motion. One evening, as Ilara prepared to slip from her chambers, Mira caught her arm. "My lady, please. You must stop. I fear eyes are upon you." But Ilara's determination burned too brightly. "If I do not see him, I will lose myself." Mira, you do not understand. I love him. Mira's eyes filled with tears. And love may be the blade that destroys you both. Still, Ilara went. She found Arvin in the old orchard beyond the castle's eastern wall, where wildflowers grew between the stones. The night was warm, the air sweet with the scent of blossoms. For a moment, the world seemed untouched by war or politics. They spoke softly of impossible dreams, of riding away together, of living in a distant village where no one knew their names. But their words were interrupted by the sudden clatter of armor. From the darkness, soldiers emerged, torches blazing. Ilara gasped as Arvin was seized, his arms pinned behind his back. She screamed, struggling as hands dragged her away. It was a trap. From behind the soldiers stepped Lord Vanar, his smile cruel and sharp. "How touching," he sneered. "The princess and her peasant. Did you truly think you could deceive a kingdom?" Ilara fought against the guard's grip. "Release him. He has done nothing wrong." Vanar's eyes gleamed. "On the contrary, princess. He has stolen what belongs to Serinya, your heart, and for that, the price must be paid." Arvin struggled, fury blazing in his eyes. "If you harm her..." Vanar silenced him with a raised hand. "You will speak only when commanded, commoner. The king shall decide your fate at dawn." They were dragged apart, Ilara back to her chambers, Arvin thrown into the cold, damp prison beneath the fortress. That night, Ilara wept until her pillow was soaked. Mira held her, whispering comfort, though her own heart broke for her mistress. "There must be a way," Ilara cried. "I cannot let them take him from me." In the dungeon below, Arvin sat in chains, his body aching from the soldiers' blows. Yet his spirit remained unbroken. In the darkness, he whispered her name like a prayer. "Ilara." Dawn came too quickly. The great hall filled with nobles, soldiers, and courtiers, eager to witness the king's judgment. Arvin was dragged before the throne, his hands bound, his face bruised but proud. Ilara, veiled in white, stood to the side, her heart pounding like a war drum. King Darius's face was a mask of fury. "Is it true?" he thundered. "My daughter, bound in secret to this servant?" Ilara tried to speak, but her voice trembled. "Father, please." "Silence!" the king roared. He turned to Arvin, his eyes blazing. "By law, you are guilty of treason. To defile the honor of the crown is death. Do you deny it?" Arvin lifted his head, his voice steady despite the chains. "I deny nothing. I love her. I would rather die with that truth than live without it." Gasps rippled through the hall. The king's fury deepened, yet even he could not ignore the courage in Arvin's words. His hand trembled on the arm of his throne. "Then death you shall have." Ilara fell to her knees, crying out, "No! Please, father, I beg you. He is not my shame. He is my salvation. If you kill him, you kill me as well." The hall erupted in chaos, nobles whispering, guards exchanging nervous glances. Lord Vanar's smile widened, for this was exactly the spectacle he had hoped for. A princess defying her king, a kingdom teetering on the edge of scandal. But in that moment, something shifted. The king did not strike her down, nor give the final order. His fury warred with his love for his daughter, his pride clashing with the bond of blood. He rose from his throne, his voice low and trembling. "Take him back to the dungeon. I will decide his fate when the sun sets." The guards obeyed, dragging Arvin away once more, and so the day stretched long, filled with unbearable dread. Ilara remained locked in her chambers, pacing like a caged bird, while Arvin waited in the dark, counting the hours until nightfall. Both knew that the setting sun would bring either freedom or finality, and outside the walls of Serinya, storm clouds gathered, not only of love and betrayal, but of war. The northern armies were moving closer, and soon the kingdom itself would face destruction. Little did they know, the fate of Serinya and the fate of their love were bound together, and the choice the king made that night would change everything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Serenya's stone walls, the kingdom held its breath. In the dungeon, Arvin sat silently, chains biting into his wrists, his mind racing. Outside, the sounds of the approaching northern army could already be heard, a distant thunder of hooves and the clanging of armor carried by the wind. Alara paced in her chambers, her veil half torn, her heart a storm of fear and defiance. Mira watched her, silent and anxious, knowing that the princess's emotions could spark decisions that might doom them all. The hour arrived. The king summoned both Arvin and Alara to the fortress's highest tower, where the royal chamber overlooked the city. Guards lined the corridors, eyes cold and unyielding. Yet despite the formality, an unspoken tension gripped every soul present. King Darius's face was grave, shadowed by the weight of both paternal love and the heavy burden of rulership. "Ilara," he began, his voice steady but low, "and you, Arvin, understand the severity of your actions. This kingdom teeters on the brink of war. My decision must weigh both heart and duty." Ilara stepped forward, her hands trembling, but her gaze unwavering. "Father, I do not ask for leniency. Only hear me. Arvin is not a threat to this kingdom. He is my heart. To separate us would be to destroy me." Arvin spoke next, voice calm despite his battered body. "Your Majesty, I will take whatever punishment you deem necessary, but know this. My loyalty is to Ilara. If I cannot protect her openly, then I will protect her in secret, even at the cost of my life." The king exhaled sharply. His eyes softened for a brief moment as he looked at his daughter, then hardened as he faced reality. War is coming. The northern army moves faster than anticipated. Serenia must unite, not fracture. He paused, considering the weight of his next words. "I will give you a choice. Arvin, you may leave the kingdom now with nothing but your life. Take Alara with you in secret or remain and face execution. You understand?" Arvin's heart ached. To leave openly was impossible. Alara could never escape with him without being caught. Yet to stay would almost certainly mean death. He looked at Alara, whose eyes shone with unshed tears. "I cannot leave her," he whispered. Alara shook her head, resolute. "Then we face it together." The king's expression hardened further. "So be it. If you stay, you will risk not only your lives, but the kingdom itself. The northern army may strike while you hide," silence fell. Outside, the first flashes of the enemy torches could be seen along the horizon. The threat of destruction drew nearer with every heartbeat. That night, Arvin and Alara met one last time under the moonlight in the secret orchard. The air was thick with fear, yet also with a burning, desperate love. "I cannot let you face this alone," Alara said, clutching his hands. "We must survive." "Somehow we will find a way," Arvin nodded. "I swear it, Ilara. I will not let anything take you from me." They embraced as the wind carried the distant sounds of war closer, a reminder that their world was about to shatter. The moonlight glinted on her tears, and he kissed her, a promise sealed in the quiet defiance of the night. By dawn, the northern army had reached Serenia's borders. The kingdom braced for attack. Soldiers lined the walls and arrows filled the sky. Yet inside the fortress, the young lovers remained together, hidden, their hearts a fragile island of hope amidst the storm. In that hour, they understood something profound. Love is not measured by safety or convenience, but by courage and sacrifice. They might face death, betrayal, or exile, yet their hearts were free, bound to each other in ways the kingdom could never govern. And so, as the first clash of steel echoed across the hills, Ilar and Arvin made a silent vow. Whatever the outcome, their love would endure. It was not a rebellion against the crown, but a rebellion of the heart itself, an eternal flame amidst the shadows of war. The storm had come, both from without and within, and Serenia would never be the same again. The morning sun rose over Serenia, pale and trembling, as if it too feared the day ahead. The kingdom's walls shook with the thunder of approaching northern cavalry. Smoke curled from distant hills where the first skirmishes erupted, and the air was heavy with the scent of fear, steel, and burning wood. Inside the fortress, Ilara and Arvin clung together in the secret orchard one last time. They could hear the clash of swords and the cries of soldiers in the distance. The kingdom they had known, their home, was at war, and yet for a moment it was as if the world held its breath. "We may not survive this," Arvin whispered, brushing a tear from her cheek. "But whatever happens, know that my heart will always be yours." Ilara nodded, holding his face between her hands. "And mine yours. If fate demands we part, then let it take us only with the certainty that we truly loved." Before they could speak again, the fortress gates were breached. A group of northern soldiers poured into the courtyard, clashing with Serena's defenders. The sounds of battle grew louder, echoing through the walls and corridors, a symphony of chaos. Arvin grabbed Ilara's hand. "We must move, now!" They ran through secret passages known only to the royal family, weaving through stone corridors, descending narrow stairwells, and slipping past guards unaware of their escape. Their hearts pounded with both fear and exhilaration, for every step could mean freedom or death. As they reached the outer wall, the northern army's advance seemed unstoppable. Horses stomped, swords clanged, and flames licked the edges of the city. In a desperate move, Arvin guided Ilara to a hidden postern gate that led to the forest beyond the fortress. Just as they reached it, a soldier appeared, blocking their path. Arvin stood in front of Ilara, drawing the small dagger he carried. The fight was brief, fierce, but Arvin's determination outweighed the soldier's surprise. They broke through, slipping into the shadows of the forest as arrows whistled past. Under the canopy of ancient trees, they finally slowed, gasping for breath. Moonlight now replaced the sun, and the distant sounds of Serena's destruction faded behind them. For a moment they were free, not of the world, but of the chains that bound their hearts. Ilara collapsed against Arvin, sobbing with relief. We made it," she whispered. Arvin held her tightly. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. We will have to live in hiding, far from Serena, until the war ends. But we have each other, and that is more than any kingdom can give." Days turned into weeks, and the northern army eventually withdrew, their advance halted by Serena's remaining forces in the treacherous terrain. Though the kingdom lay scarred, the war had ended. Arvin and Ilara, hidden in a distant village beyond the mountains, began a new life. They took simple names, built a small home, and lived quietly. Their love no longer forbidden, but free. Yet the lessons of Serena remained. They knew that courage, sacrifice, and the strength to defy destiny had brought them together. Their love had survived the impossible, royal decree, betrayal, and the thunder of war. And in the quiet evenings, as they sat beneath the stars, they would tell their story, not for fame, not for wealth, but so that love's endurance could inspire all who heard it. Ilara leaned her head on Arvin's shoulder. "Do you ever think of Serena?" she asked softly. "Every day," he replied, "but I think of it not with regret, but with gratitude. Without it, we would never have found each other. And so, in a world shaped by kingdoms and conflict, by laws and lineage, Ilara and Arvin discovered a truth that would outlast even the fiercest storms. Love, when true and brave, can conquer all." The story of the princess and the commoner, of a kingdom torn and hearts united, became legend, not because it was easy, but because it endured. And though the walls of Serena would eventually crumble to dust, the memory of their love would live forever. The Orangam, Arcanism.